my dollars make it hurt.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Commercial Real Estate Investing, the Black Community Condition, on Education Wednesdays. Hope everyone's doing well. Today I wanted to just kind of further expand from last week, on last Wednesday when I was talking about office, to get into a little bit more of the subsectors of office. One in particular is the medical space. From an investment standpoint, investors love medical office spaces. Why? It's because typically your medical tenant is going to sign a long-term lease, and they're going to be there for a very long time, right? And the reason for that is because you got to think for a practitioner, it's going to take all this money for the special equipment to build out their space the way they need to. It's going to be a specialized space, specialized equipment, and it takes time to grow a practice. So unlike, your regular office tenants, which, may have a horizon of, on the very low end, a year, 6 months, 18 months, very short term, medical tenants, as long as they're able to service their customers, can be in locations for decades, right? And as the practice grows, they hire more people and stuff like that, and they just become wrapped into the community. So from an investor standpoint, that's a long-term tenant, which means long-term cash flow. Because, when you invest in the commercial real estate, it's about the cash flow, right? And the durability of it. In addition, because of that, also of the fundamental part of it, your lenders love it as well. So you'll have a lot of lenders who have an appetite to lend at decent terms and rates on product that is medical office, especially if it's a group of doctors, if it's affiliated with one of the major healthcare providers, like here in Texas, Baylor Scott and White. So having that affiliation lowers the risk for them in their eyes. Having a long-term tenant also lowers the risk, because you got to think of your lenders as partners, right? Not necessarily an adversarial dynamic. I mean, when you're looking at these projects, you're like, hey, how does this work from our partner, the lender? Because your lenders make money by lending money, right? They get the interest off of lending. And you make money off the difference of paying everybody else, paying your expenses, paying your lender. What's left over is the cash flow, which goes directly to you and your partner's pockets. Now, one thing that you have to realize with the trend of medical is you have medical tenants that are, and this has been happening before COVID. They kind of had the term called MedTail, right? And all that basically means is your medical professionals were looking to, even your hospitals were looking to get closer and closer to their customers. So instead of having your patients and customers come all the way to the hospital, which sometimes is not the most convenient location, has the most convenient access, you actually come out to them. So you start to see a lot of your medical tenants going into the retail spaces, right? Vacant retail spaces, building out their office space in these retail spaces that are right in the neighborhood. and servicing the neighborhood and becoming a long-term tenant there. Now, retail build out is expensive compared to office, but just in general, when it comes to building out a space for a medical tenant, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. And the reason is medical tenants typically, because you got to have individual offices and rooms and specialized rooms, especially if they do like X-rays. You have to reinforce the walls and make sure that the X-rays can't go through. So then you got plumbing, mill work, lighting, sometimes specialized flooring if they got a machine like your imaging machine, because the floor has to obviously support the machine's weight, but it also has to be level, right? Because when it's doing the imaging and scanning, you want to make sure you get a perfect read, because those machines are very sensitive. So, and then soundproofing and all that good stuff. So, medical office build-outs can be expensive, but in return, those particular tenants stay there longer. And right now, there's always need. People are getting older. That's not changing anytime soon. Now, you do have the advent of telemedicine. How that's going to play out all the way, not too sure. In my opinion, maybe it's going to be a similar scenario to where you have people working from home on the office, where office is going to transition to just be very flexible and mobile. So with telemedicine, that'll be part of the service for those who don't necessarily need to come in, but for stuff that's a little bit more, requires a little bit more attention, they would. So I think that kind of, alleviates, I guess from a physician, some of the minor things, and really focus on people that have critical needs and critical care needs. But all that being said, medical office for investors is very competitive. You'll see cap rates range anywhere from say 4.5 to maybe 6, just depending on the tenant base, where it's located, the quality of the building, and then obviously you got to have funds available for the build out as well. In some cases, tenants build out their own space, but it's a negotiation here and there. But you always want to be well capitalized, because that's the kind of tenants that you're dealing with. So, you probably have to, depending on the market that you're in, have to be competitive and offer some tenant improvement allowances or turnkey options. But with that being said, in most cases, you get that back. But like I said, yeah, the medical space, which is a subsector, kind of office, is a space that you'll find a lot of investors are looking at. It's a need. It's a need in our communities and everybody's community. So I think that's something to look out for, especially given what's going on with COVID. It's probably going to be a strain on some individuals, but there's also going to be a huge demand for services, right? You saw all these testing facilities pop up here recently, and then for that, some people started new businesses off of that for testing and diagnostics and stuff. So I think there's still a lot of good runway in the medical office space, but you got to understand also, the fundamentals of it, right? As I always say, when I'm looking at a property, how does that property compete? Or how can I make it compete if I'm going in there trying to do a value add play, right? What is my competitive advantage that no other building has or will have in that area? And then, obviously buying it, right? And understand the terms of the leases that these tenants have signed. What's your responsibility? Are you required any future build outs? Stuff like that. So just affiliation. Is it something that's located near a regional satellite office of an affiliate? You know, like I said before, Bear Scott and White, Texas Resources, Herman Memorial in Houston, and then whatever other hospitals that may be in your hometown or in your area. That's a major or region. That's either a national or regional player that provides medical, critical care at trauma levels and stuff like that. So, how far is the place? Where is the easy access? There's buses that go to that location. I mean, you'll see, a lot of investors that have the appetite to own medical buildings that are further away from affiliates. They're more independent, but they're more localized in the community where there's a tremendous amount of patients that are being underserved, or it's not oversaturated with the healthcare providers, which is another thing you'll need to also look at is what is the competitive landscape in that area, right? What is in demand, what's not in demand, what's oversaturated, to get an idea of who your particular customers are. Because real estate is nothing without the customer, right? Your customer is the tenant, and the tenant has customers as well, their patrons. So it all kind of goes hand in hand. Without the people, real estate doesn't exist. And then for your businesses or your tenants, without their customers, they don't exist. So you got to have a kind of an understanding of, who's expanding, who's not, what there's a lot of, what there's not enough of, what's being underserved. And also, you can do a lot of that with just talking with brokers, do your due diligence. I mean, a lot, can be done with just simply going on Google and start researching, the medical part, the medical industry. And, so I thought I'd just drop in, talk a little bit about medical office a little bit, not getting too depth, it was on my mind. And then obviously, also, because I just recently was helping a prospect as well. So like I said, one of those things that I value from being in the business and being on the inside is getting, on the ground experience, but also on the ground knowledge and seeing what's going on, asking those questions. Because information is important, data is important, making decisions based off that information is important to effectively have, a great investment that's durable, provides cash flow, provides wealth for you and your family, friends, and allows you to do the things that are most important for your family, right? And the people that you care about. So until next time, until next Wednesday, happy investing. Let's continue to have a conversation. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and let's continue this conversation and continue to build our knowledge together, helping one another collectively. As I always said, or as the proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And that's what I'm aiming to do. So until next time, let's continue to talk commercial real estate investing, black community, black people. Happy Wednesday, happy investing. Peace.
These my dollars make it hurt.